Sometimes you find something in a video game that makes you think, well, this clearly wasn't meant to be found, and the game's removed from the eShop. Well, at least I can still play this. This is why today we're diving into 5 removed Easter eggs that were never meant to be found. Part 3. Elden Ring. Elden Ring, for anyone unfamiliar, is the latest From Software action RPG and first open-world Soulsborne game that currently holds the title of highest-selling game of the year. Early in the expansive adventure, the player can visit a remote location known as the Round Table Hold and find a character named Fia, who describes herself as a deathbed companion, and requests a hug that you can actually give her, in exchange for a special blessing that when consumed boosts poise, though your health lessens slightly as she appears to drain your energy. The game was out for less than a month when data miners were surprised to uncover that Fia's underwear was hidden in the game as a collectible item, and evidently was removed from the game but remained in the files under the name Deathbed Smalls. The name indicates it would have been part of her deathbed armor set, which normally only consists of the deathbed dress in the game. However, the undies were able to be hacked in the game using cheat engine obtaining item ID 1930300, and surprisingly they actually have full stats and offer a small bit of death resistance, which seems to indicate the underwear was actually implemented at some point and not just a throwaway joke by the developers, though I imagine you would have had to do a lot more than just hug her to obtain them. Those who hacked the panties in the game decided to spread the love and used the online multiplayer feature to drop weapons and items for other players to retrieve. This seems to have really turned From Software red, who began soft banning players with Deathbed Smalls in their inventory and said they had to remove it or get suspended, which especially confused players who picked up Fia's intimates not knowing what they were. Some players even reported having to delete their entire save files just to get rid of the underwear. Damn, that's quite the sacrifice, having to give up Fia's panties like that. A patch was even issued that prevented players from passing around unauthorized items, though we know which item they were truly concerned about. Not sure if Fia's knickers deserve such a reaction, but at least it serves a lesson about picking up other people's drawers. So of all the horrors already in the game and insane shit that hackers continue to mod in, when it comes to things that are truly forbidden in the world of Elden Ring, Fia's knickers is apparently where the line is drawn. Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 is, you know what this is. 2013's Grand Theft Auto 5 still remains one of the most popular games to date, and one with so much depth and endless content, players continue to find and investigate new details in the sprawling game world to this day. The biggest mystery in the game for the last decade, however, is what many already know as the Mount Chiliad mystery. A huge mystery since the game first came out, where UFOs could be seen on the Chiliad mountain, as well as a cryptic mural that seemed to imply there was a jetpack to be found in the game, which was never found in the single-player experience, though one was introduced in Grand Theft Auto Online. I actually have been submitted a large number of discoveries related to the Mount Chiliad mystery that has led me to believe there are likely more things here that we still haven't solved. And while I plan to explore that further in the future, there's actually a different mystery that exists on Mount Chiliad that has also never been cleared. As shortly after the game's initial release, players found if you took a copter and managed to land on this exact cliff, you could see a face drawn into the side of the mountain. Who this face belongs to is unknown, though many believe it bears a striking resemblance to Jesse Pinkman on Breaking Bad, which was on its last season at the time of GTA 5's release. Many assume the Easter egg is a hidden portrait of one of the game's developers, and apparently there was even an unsubstantiated rumor Rockstar wasn't too fond of this slipping by them and canned the trickster for the transgression. I'm not exactly sure where they're getting that, but perhaps there is some plausibility to the theory in the fact that the Easter egg has been completely removed from every subsequent re-release of Grand Theft Auto 5 since. All 600 of them. And now instead of a picture of a face, we instead have a picture of a rather phallic rooster. I guess Rockstar thought whoever had the balls to do this was apparently a huge cockhead, or they just really don't like Jesse Pinkman. Pocket Mirror. Thanks to kextweet on Twitter for submitting this through Oddheader.com. 2016's Pocket Mirror is a mystery horror RPG made by indie developer Austral Shift, which takes players through hundreds of environments as they solve puzzles on a journey to discover the main character's identity. At one point in the game, a pumpkin gives a player a coin that they can put in a machine to get a ribbon. However, if the player keeps the coin instead, they can later find a second coin hidden in a fountain in another part of the game. You can later come across an invisible path and find a pumpkin who asks for 2 coins. The pumpkin then says you must be a millionaire and says you can enter the secret millionaire club. Then they ask if you have epilepsy and suggest that you jump in the hole, which when you do, the game crashes. Though the path for it for some reason remains in the game, suggesting it was removed rather abruptly. The reason for this is the Millionaire Club was evidently removed and patched in a later update. Fortunately, thanks to YouTuber, hacker, and my friend Slippy Slides, he was able to restore the Millionaire Club from the original version. And by the way, this epilepsy warning also serves as a warning for the rest of this segment, as shit's about to get wild. Inside the Millionaire Club is a room with flashing lights and pulsating rave music with twerking versions of yourself everywhere. who asks you to do perfectly logical things like fart on a pumpkin for $10. I am the squat master, behold my mighty thighs. Did you know some freaks actually dress as pumpkins and dance? Why would anyone do that? The one standing on the couch says, "This is my Tom Cruise impression." There's also a pumpkin that Rick rolls you. I thought this was a horror game, which is probably why the Millionaire Club was patched out so abruptly, as it kinda looks like an area a developer might not have been too happy to find out about after release. Or maybe it was never meant to be found at all, considering the whole farting on a pumpkin thing. Mafia. Thanks to Cukier for submitting this on the Oddheader Discord. Mafia is an open-world action-adventure highly reminiscent of Grand Theft Auto, but set during Prohibition in the 1930s, released in 2002 by Czech developer Illusion Softworks. The game was recently remade for the 2020 Mafia Definitive Edition, but Cukier managed to uncover something from the game they weren't expecting to find from the original 2002 retail release. As by looking in the data of the installer, the very first 1.0 version of the game that was released in Illusion's home country, the Czech Republic, with a resource editor, Cukier figured out for the first time if you were to hold shift on the splash screen that appears when you first put the disc into the computer, and then clicked on the right mouse button 30 times in different spots all over this image, you'd suddenly be greeted with, "Whoa, cover your eyes, kids." Apparently, you would be greeted by Playboy model Petra Verkite getting real comfortable with herself on a boat. From Cukier's further research, Petra fails to appear in all other versions of the game, and can only be found in the Czech version. The image for Petra still exists in the data for the North American and other European versions of the game, but the activation for the image was apparently removed. So I'm guessing this was a special present for the developer's home country? And if you're wondering why this was removed from all other versions of the game, the answer should be obvious. She doesn't even slightly look like she's from the 1930s. There we go. Prototype. Thanks to Shade545 for submitting this on the Oddheader Discord. Prototype by Radical Entertainment is a 2009 open-world action-adventure game, which takes place in Manhattan as shapeshifter Alex tries to stop an outbreak of the Blacklight virus, which causes its victims to turn into monsters known as the Infected. While Prototype is largely forgotten, with publisher Activision long moving on from the franchise, one mystery still remains in the heads of fans like Shade545 to this day. As 8 days before the game's release, NeoSeeker published a 4-page feature about visiting Radical Entertainment Studio and reported on page 3. One hidden gem in Prototype is a severed leg. Starting as a joke, the leg took on a life of its own among the designers and grew a backstory and then an entire extra character. Once all 130-ish web of intrigued people are absorbed, the leg unlocks a new character and a bunch more backstory for another. Where's the leg? Hidden on top of a building. Nobody knows exactly where, but we did get the Radical team to let us know that it's in the upper half of the city. Good hunting, and let us know if you find it. Once the game came out, players were eager to complete the Wild Goose Chase and sure enough found a slice of somebody's leg on top of a building in East Harlem, but were met with disappointment as after collecting all 131 web of intrigues, the severed limb just sat there and didn't do anything at all. And unfortunately, that's basically where things still stand. 13 years since Prototype's release. Many speculate the Easter egg was removed, including the game's own fan wiki, though through all the research I could do, it doesn't appear the developers ever confirmed what the actual deal was, with many on Reddit still trying to figure out the mystery and insistent that the developers never said anything further. In my opinion, considering the NeoSeeker feature was published only 8 days before the game's release, that doesn't really seem like enough time to have anything removed from the game, considering the game was probably ready to ship at that point. But unless someone out there somehow manages to figure out there's still a way to activate the Easter egg that we just never found after all these years later, it still seems to stand for now that it's most likely a removed Easter egg and they really did just have us collect 131 collectibles just to get stuck with a pointless slap of meat. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you know of any other Easter eggs that were removed from video games, submit through oddheader.com, come join the Discord, or even send me a shout through Twitter or Reddit. And thanks again to Slippy Slides for helping get the footage for this video. Feel free to subscribe to him down below as well. Shout out to Alexander Knight, Angel the Fox, Ash Photography, Andrew FM, Chad Biscuits, Dear Mid Crowley, Grow Ups, Ed Moffat, Eddie Talkspin the Bleach Primid, Fox M Cloud 123, Galax Opry, Leo Mauer, Miss Arctic Foxy, Rackman 22, Riley S, Robert Eisenman, Scarities, Starcore 2, Sneaking J, Taryn Stock, Towerizer, Vincent, and Jan Banier for their Patreon support. Stay tuned.